Welcome all of you to the 2026 winter commencement at Baylor Law School. We'll begin our ceremony with the invocation by Bianca Lopez. Bianca.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today with gratitude that was shaped through challenge and refined by perseverance. These past 3 years, especially in practice court, were demanding. We felt pressure, exhaustion, and the constant weight of expectations. Days blurred into nights, and there were moments when doubt felt louder than confidence, when rest was scarce, and when simply showing up felt like an accomplishment. And yet, Lord, here we stand, not because the journey was easy, but because you were faithful. Thank you for sustaining us when our strength ran low, for steadying us when anxiety crept in, and for giving us perseverance when quitting felt close. Thank you for meeting us in the quiet moments, late at night, when we questioned ourselves and wondered whether we were enough, and for reminding us that we were never unseen and never alone. Thank you for the people you placed beside us, friends who became family, for the late-night conversations when the work was done, but the weight still lingered, for the laughter that brought relief, the tears that brought honesty, and the presence of those who stayed when encouragement mattered more than answers. Thank you for the growth that came through discomfort, for teaching us discipline when motivation faded, humility when confidence wavered, and resilience when we were pushed beyond what we thought we could endure. Through every challenge, you were shaping us into stronger, more grounded people than when we began. As we step into what comes next, help us carry these lessons forward. Let us remember what it feels like to be overwhelmed so that we lead with compassion. Let us honor the responsibility placed before us by practicing with integrity, empathy, and care. May we never forget that our accomplishments were built not only on effort, but on grace, faith, and the support of others. Lord, we place our gratitude, our future, and our trust in you. Amen.
Graduates, please be seated. Family, friends, welcome to this celebration of a great accomplishment. I want to say again to the graduates what I told them before we walked in here together. Congratulations. This is an incredible accomplishment. And family and friends, you heard a little bit of this from Bianca's prayer. They have been through the ringer. And so they have every right to be proud of this accomplishment, and you have every right to be proud of them. They have earned this, I can assure you. I also want to welcome you to the Paul Powell Chapel here at Truett Seminary. This is not the law school. This is the seminary. Law school's over there, but we hold commencement exercises here quite frequently because it's a lovely space, and we like the Truett Seminary. A little bit of history, just a very brief history of Baylor and our law school. Baylor University was founded by the Republic of Texas in 1845. And the law school came along 12 years later in 1857. We are, as you might gather from the 12 members of this graduating class, a rather small law school. We are small by choice. We are one of the smallest, if not the smallest, in the state of Texas, and we're one of the smaller ones in the country. We like to have a small group of students. Now, what that means for you is that if you are a fan of the 3-hour-long impersonal graduations, you are going to be deeply disappointed by this one. We will try to stretch it out for you, try to kill a little time, but this commencement exercise is going to be short and sweet, and I do mean sweet, and it will be personal, and you are encouraged to enthusiastically support your graduate as they walk across the stage. More about that later. One of the things that we emphasize here at the law school, from the time they attend new student orientation until the time they walk across the stage, is that at the heart of what all lawyers do is serve. We serve people. At our best, that's what we do. These graduates are going to do all sorts of different things. Their practices will be very different from one another, but all of them, we say, must find a way to serve others. And that can mean, of course, serving their clients, but also serving their faith communities, serving in their communities. They've got to help. They've got to leave their community and their professions better than how they found them. At least they've got to do their dead level best to achieve that. One of the sorts of service that we like to recognize in particular, and have a long tradition of doing this at our graduation, is service in our armed forces. The reason we do this is because another thing we emphasize, of course, is the importance of the rule of law and as a law school. But you can't have a place where the rule of law thrives if you don't have people willing to defend that place. We have 2 graduates today who served in our armed forces, and I want to recognize them today. Kyle Simon, please stand. There you are, Kyle. Kyle served in the United States Army from June of 2004 until June of 2021. Kyle remained standing. And Daniel Turnbull, United States Army. Please stand, Daniel. Serves in the United States Army starting in June 2018 to the present. So I want to thank both of you for your service to our countries and your continued service as you become attorneys. Now, I would like to ask anyone here present who has served in the United States military, be that Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, to please stand so that we may recognize your service. Let's give them a round of applause. Please be seated. Thank you all. I am going to provide some brief introductions of our stage party here. I want to thank and recognize all of our faculty and staff who are here present supporting these graduates. We have more faculty here than graduates, and I think that says a lot about our faculty's commitment to the success of these students and what a wonderful impression all of you have made on them. But here on the stage with me, I want to tell you a little bit about these people. Their bios are in your program, and I'm not going to read them to you, but just to hit some highlights. One of the things that you will see when your graduate walks across the stage, they'll receive their diploma here, being careful not to trip over this raised portion of the ramp here, and then they will come over here. And because they are receiving the Juris Doctor degree, a doctorate degree, they will be hooded. That is a long tradition in the academy. They will be hooded. They get to choose who hoods them, and the people who hood them must also hold that degree. So the 2 people they have chosen to hood them today are Professor Chris Yeager and Catherine Sims. So let me tell you a little bit about each of them. Catherine Sims is our Director of Student Affairs. Did I get the title? Yeah, okay. Suddenly it didn't sound right in my mouth. Director of Student Affairs. So I'm just going to sum it up this way. Catherine does wonderful work for our students. We want our students to be challenged, and we want them to thrive. Those things are in tension sometimes. Catherine specializes in the thriving part, okay? That is her specialty, and the students love her for it, and we're grateful for all the work that Catherine does. She has worked with student organizations, she has worked with students and the Student Bar Association, and does very important and fine work there. Professor Chris Yeager teaches contracts and alternative dispute resolution into mostly upper level students, but contracts is a required first-year course. He is relatively new on our faculty. He's been here for about 5 years now? Just about 5 years. And he has become essential to our faculty. He is an outstanding teacher, and he is an outstanding scholar. He is a lawyer, but he is also holds a PhD in psychology, and much of his scholarship focuses on the psychological assumptions underpinning certain rules of law. So certain rules of law were developed, some of them many, many years ago, and they assume something about the way humans think. And Professor Yeager scientifically approaches this and shows that some of those assumptions are wrong about the way humans think. And so he has been he's received widespread acclaim for his scholarship. He's recently won a national award and was published in the Yale Law Review. And he's just a great person on top of that. He's just wonderful to be with. So class, you've chosen well with these two Hooders. So thank you both for serving in this way. I also I'm going to save my remarks about Professor Tilley, who will be giving our commencement address a little later on, but I do want to introduce the leadership team here. Pat Wilson here on your left and Angela Cruz-Turner on your right. Pat Wilson is our Associate Dean and Angela Cruz-Turner is our Senior Assistant Dean. And let me just say this, I shouldn't say this because I like my job. Anybody could do what I do if they have these two behind them. They make me look good, and I shamelessly take credit for all of their work. But Pat Wilson deals with faculty matters mainly, and Angela Cruz-Turner deals with staff matters mainly, and we all sort of collectively deal with all sorts of student matters, but they are the people who help make the ship go and enable our faculty to do the important work that they do. And I'm so grateful for both of your work for the law school. It's critical. And I think that's all I need to say about that. Okay, so Kate Kirchmer is the highest ranking student in this graduating class, and the reward for good hard work is more good hard work. So when you're the highest ranking student in your class, you have the privilege of giving a commencement speech to a few hundred people and your classmates. But Kate is a fantastic student and a fantastic exemplar of what we try to produce at Baylor Law School. And so, Kate, I welcome you and your remarks to the podium.
Thank you, Dean Counselor. Good morning, everyone. It's a crazy thing to stand here today in full regalia with a degree that comes with both a hood and a lifelong attachment to the phrase, "it depends." Before law school, I thought I was pretty good at reading. Then I met my first casebook. And I realized there are at least 3 kinds of reading: reading for pleasure, reading for information, and reading for survival. And we've done an impressive amount of survival reading. We've survived cold calls that made time slow down in ways that science still can't explain. We've survived outlines that reached lengths previously reserved for historical epics. And most of all, we've survived practice court, which is the reason that they call Baylor Law the Marine Corps of law schools. At some schools, upperclassmen pass down outlines. Here, we pass down warnings to leave while you still can. But we made it through, and we're better for it. If there's one thing law school teaches, it's humility. Not the cute kind, the kind where you walk into class feeling confident and then walk out Googling, what is a tort? Even though you've been here for years. We've all had moments where we were certain we understood something until the professor asked a single question and our confidence evaporated like a promise made in a multiple choice answer key. But we kept going. We learned how to think carefully, argue clearly, and admit when we're wrong. Sometimes gracefully, sometimes not. We learned how to separate what we feel is true from what we can prove is true. And we learned how to do the hard work anyway, when we were tired, when we were stressed, and when deadlines were approaching at a speed that felt personal. And today we get to celebrate not just what we know, but what we become. People who can carry responsibility. And speaking of responsibility, I want to share something personal. I'm delivering this speech from a place that means a great deal to me. It's the same place my uncle, Clint Dobson, once delivered a sermon after receiving the Most Outstanding Preacher Award at Truett Seminary. He went on to become a pastor, and he was the kind of person who made you feel seen, like your story mattered, like you mattered. But tragically, he was killed in his church at age 28. And that's a hard sentence for me to say out loud. It's not something I'm sharing to bring the room down and not to make this moment heavy, but I'm sharing it because despite his short life, his impact was enormous. People still talk about him, they still share stories about him, and his legacy continues through an endowed scholarship in his name at Truett Seminary. And his life reminds me of something I think we need to hear at a moment like this. Legacy isn't about how long you live or how many titles you collect. Legacy is what you leave in people. Through the way you treat them, the way you show up, and the way you use whatever power you're given. And we're about to be given real power. Not the dramatic kind where you stride into a courtroom and everyone immediately stops what they're doing because your objection is simply that compelling, though I do wish that for all of us. I mean the quieter power, the power to influence outcomes, the power to shape a person's worst day, the power to decide whether a system feels human or cold, the power to speak when it's easier to stay silent, the power to be careful with words, because words can build and words can break. And we're entering a profession where it's easy to become hardened, where it's easy to treat people like facts and exhibits and file numbers, where the pace and pressure can convince you to become efficient at the expense of being kind. But I hope we resist that. I hope we become lawyers who are excellent and decent, lawyers who are prepared and compassionate, lawyers who can advocate fiercely without losing our humanity, lawyers who remember that behind every issue spotter is a person who is scared, confused, grieving, hopeful, or just trying to make it through. Because one day someone will remember you, not for the motion you won, but for the phone call you returned. Not for the argument you made, but for the dignity that you gave them. Not for your GPA, but the way you made them feel when they needed help. So yes, chase the big goals, make partner, lead the nonprofit, change policy, try cases, write, teach, build the career that fits your calling. But in the middle of all that, don't forget the small daily choices that create impact. Telling the truth when it costs you, treating people with respect even when you disagree, practicing courage when nobody's watching, and remembering why you started. And today, before we walk out of here into whatever comes next, let's also take a second to thank the people who carried us. To the families who listened to us practice arguments that they did not request, thank you. To the friends who were patient when we disappeared during finals, thank you. To the faculty and staff who challenged us, encouraged us, and sometimes saved us from ourselves, thank you. And to our classmates, thank you for being the people who understood, without explanation, what it meant to live on caffeine and hope and an unrealistic reading schedule. We made it, we did the hard thing, and we did it in a way that, at least from where I stand, still feels full of laughter, growth, and friendship. My uncle's story is a reminder that the impact you make doesn't require a long timeline. It requires intention. It requires love, and it requires showing up. So as we leave here, my hope is simple, that we use our training not just to be effective, but to be meaningful. That we become the kind of lawyers whose presence makes rooms better, systems fairer, and people less alone. Congratulations. I can't wait to see what we build and who we become. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. Kate, that was outstanding, and you know, your uncle does have a fine legacy, and you're part of it, and you're going to have an outstanding impact in your own right, so thank you. That was really fabulous. There's just one problem with it. I don't know how Professor Tilley's going to follow that. I hope he's got one humdinger of a speech ready to go, because anything other than that would disappoint everyone here. He was one of your practice court professors, and I now see what's going on. This was all revenge set up. Well, Professor Tilley is our commencement speaker today, and he is a person of good humor and not new to law teaching, but fairly new to the Baylor Law School faculty. He is, along with Liz Fraley and Anthony Brewster and Robert Little, they are our practice court faculty. And they have a difficult task. They have to challenge these students. They have to put them through the ringer. They demand precision. They demand excellence. They sit in a courtroom with these students, and they serve as sort of a backseat driver, and they tell them everything they've done wrong, and they make them do it again until they get it right. And yet, they're often chosen by the students to come be their commencement speaker. Now, it might be a little bit of revenge, but I think mostly it's because they're liked and respected by the students for the right reasons, that they have high expectations for these students and they deliver on them. Professor Tilley came to us from Campbell Law School in Raleigh, North Carolina, after a career here in Central Texas as a trial lawyer. There in Campbell, he rose to become the associate dean, and while doing that, he built one of the strongest advocacy programs in the country. He came here a couple of years ago and it's like he just stepped right in and has always been here. He is a fabulous teacher, and as I said, he is liked for all the right reasons by students. He's a friend and a fantastic colleague, and I welcome you to the podium, Professor Tilley.
Thank you, Dean Counselor and members of our faculty. I'm delighted to be here. Kate, that was superb. It truly was. And I was talking to Professor Brewster in advance of this speech, and he said, don't worry, everyone's in a great mood, and they're all happy and laughing, and it'll be wonderful. And so when you said, I hate to bring the room down, I thought, this is not going to go well for me. But I do want to say congratulations to our graduates for your tremendous accomplishment, and to the family, the friends, the loved ones, all of those who have supported you along the way. And as Ms. Kirchner said, that includes those who are not with us today but played pivotal roles in our lives as we have made it to this place. We remember them and celebrate them today as we celebrate you. I want to thank you to the winter class for asking me to speak and to be here with you. It has been such a tremendous honor to get to know you as more than students, but also as individuals, and for the artistic and kind and gentle and intellectually bright and kind people that you are. It has been a great blessing to me, and I am delighted now to see your faces and them smiling back at me. Ms. Lopez is smiling now, and I will assure you in my class that was not common. It was only really common for one individual, and that was Mr. Woods. Mr. Woods, always smiling, always joyous. It didn't matter, and I will tell you that it was odd to me because Ms. Lopez prayed about practice court. We've heard about practice court, and I teach practice court along with my fellow colleagues, Professor Fraley and Brewster, and it is supposed to be a miserable, intimidating experience. And yet, Mr. Woods seemed utterly impervious to this, so much so that I invited him to my office one time, and I said, Mr. Woods, what is so funny? And I want you to know, without hesitation, he immediately blamed his classmate. It's her. Elsa keeps talking. She's making comments. It's not me. And so I will say that I did find that amusing. So more than a graduation, this is also a test because she's not sitting next to him. And so if he smiles and laughs through this, we will know the real culprit. Graduates, you have, though, spent his last 3 years in ardent pursuit of a professional degree and for the opportunities that come along with it. And as we celebrate that accomplishment, I want to encourage you to pursue life abundant and not become lost in the law as a vocation and merely an opportunity for financial means. A law degree and a career in it can be liberating if you allow it, and it can also be life-constricting if you permit it. So my prayer is that your life's purpose will be furthered by your law degree and that you find your fit in your role within it, regardless of the direction you take with your degree, that you enjoy the richness that comes not from the money you will earn as a lawyer, but from a life well lived. Now, I will tell you, I'm extremely proud to stand before you today, although I can assure you I never intended it to be the case. I am delighted in my role as a lawyer and now an academic, but starting out in life, I fervently tried to avoid a career in law. It came for me despite my best efforts. I was summarily rejected for careers in financial advising, insurance, and banking. My tenure as a Mrs. Baird's bread truck driver was short-lived, indeed. I flunked the business school entrance exam in spectacular fashion. The truth is, it wasn't as much I didn't want to be an attorney, it was I didn't want to be an unhappy attorney. My journey in law actually began on the road to Victoria, Texas in a 15-year-old hand-me-down Cadillac Coupe de Ville. I was the driver. And floating along beside me as a passenger was the venerable Craig T. Enoch, an esteemed attorney and a justice on the Texas Supreme Court. Justice Enoch was up for re-election in the fall of 1998, and at the time, I was his newly appointed deputy campaign manager, and I was as gleeful and earnest as the deputy Barney Fife. Never imagined that my political science degree would ever actually prove valuable, and neither did my parents. And yet here I was, out of college. I found myself on the campaign trail next to one of the state's highest-ranking jurists. Traveling with Justice Enoch was not my first rodeo with an attorney. Throughout my childhood, I had been around plenty of lawyers. Mom began her career as a lawyer as a county attorney before transitioning to special education. My dad was a partner at a big Dallas law firm. He had a corner office with a view of the skyline and the building that lit up green at night. Before Justice Enoch, what I knew of lawyers was paper. Lawyers dealt with mounds of paper. My parents' offices were filled with them, and lots of hours. Lawyers worked a lot. I spent many Saturdays at the office with Dad, me in the break room mixing soda fountain concoctions, and him in his office poring over those papers. I asked him once, if you just kept working, could you finish? And he looked around and he quipped, not a chance. I do as much as I can for as long as I can, and then I put it down and I come back to it. As a kid, several things stood out to me about lawyers. I noticed the paper, the work, the hours, but I also noticed something else. It was that several of them seemed quite unhappy with their jobs. Their lives in no way mirrored how lawyers were depicted. Growing up and still today, lawyers were portrayed on TV and movies as these dynamic, risk-taking courtroom champions who ultimately prevailed over the day. I remember Dad enjoying the drama and the hilarity of L.A. Law, a popular TV show in the late 80s, where client matter would come in that morning, their case would be tried that very afternoon, and then by the evening, the lead lawyer would be sleeping with opposing counsel. My own observation was that lawyering was not quite that dramatic or spectacular, with the paper, the hours, the demands, and so forth. I thought, particularly with the complaints, why work so hard at a job that you don't like? And so I had no intention of ever being a lawyer. In fact, I had every intention of not being a lawyer until driving down that stretch of road to Victoria, Texas with Craig T. Enoch. In the weeks leading up to Election Day, we canvassed the state, attending fundraisers from Edinburgh to Amarillo. Justice Enoch would hand me his keys and say, "Okay, Dan, you drive, I'm going to read briefs." On our way to Victoria, he suddenly burst into laughter. "Oh, Dan, you'll never believe this one." He went on to tell me about an appeal in a case where the plaintiff had sued an insurance company to recover death benefits under an accidental death policy. The insurance company had refused to pay. Primarily, it was the plaintiff's husband had died in an attempted burglary when he was shot by the homeowner. He said, "Plaintiff claims his death was accidental because nobody was supposed to be home." And he laughed and chuckled. As we made our way across the state week after week, he would regale me with stories from briefs that he was reading, but it wasn't the stories that captured my attention, it was his exuberance. When he would talk about complex legal issues or divisions within the Texas Courts of Appeals, it wasn't the legal complexities that inspired me, it was his enthusiasm. Week after week, what I learned on the road with Justice Enoch had less to do with the law and exponentially more to do with finding professional joy within the law. He found his place, a career that was intellectually stimulating, constantly changing, and immensely rewarding. Within the law, Justice Enoch had found his role. And standing here as your professor, I'm so grateful that I found mine. I pray that you do too. And here's something to know. It didn't happen right away for him or for me. He endured doubt, fear of failure, discomfort, frustration on his path as an early associate, and finding his fit in the law. And I did too, and so will you. When he talked of his early years as a disquieted lawyer, he often said, "I always felt it was the Lord's plan for me that I not be comfortable and keep seeking out where I was supposed to be. Remain strong in your faith and know that your prayers are heard." The law, in fact, I had it wrong, is a place for immense gratification. If you're patient and you do find your role, it is easy, though, to become trapped in practice where you don't quite fit to stay in the place where you started and let lawyering begin to disaffect your life. It needn't and it shouldn't. There is something more, though. Lawyering is only one aspect of life. It is something that can bring you great joy, but I want to assist you in a better endeavor, and that is what I said before, which is living a life well lived. And I want to offer you a few pieces of advice along the way in that endeavor. Number one is that where you begin is rarely where you end up as a lawyer and in life. So rather than trying to force an outcome, take opportunities as they present themselves, trusting that wherever you end up is where you were meant to be. So often we try to carefully choreograph our lives, where we'll be, what we're doing, who we'll be doing it with. As lawyers, we prefer black letter law, established precedent and predictable outcomes, and yet life rarely affords absolutes. Try not to assume you know for certain where you're headed or the direction that you will go. Embrace today without knowing how it will impact your tomorrow, and then occasionally look back and marvel at how it all fits. After all, it's easier to see God's purpose through the rearview mirror than it is through the windshield. Number two is that lawyering focuses on precision, but life is filled with blunders and absurdities, and I encourage you to enjoy the humility that they afford. Ralph Waldo Emerson reminds me of this in a quote that hangs in my office. It was given to me by my wife, Angela, who is here today to give me a grade, I'm sure, on this particular speech. It says, "Finish every day and be done with it. You've done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can, for tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, with too high of a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. Life is plagued by errors, mistakes, blunders, and foolishness. Sometimes not reading a case well or failing to read it entirely. You've witnessed several blunders on my behalf, cases and dates and names, they all run together. But mistakes and blunders are part of life. I encourage you to embrace them and the humility that they afford and how they demonstrate that you are human." This one, number three, was inspired by Ms. Lopez. She was upset that I did not include her in my exam. Sometimes I include student names, and she said, "You didn't include me." I said, "Well, actually, I was working on a question, and her family may appreciate this. It would involve you rear-ending someone in your car because the same time you were driving, you were also shopping." It is this: needs and wants are not synonymous. We have but 4 actual needs: food, clothing, shelter, and safety. As lawyers, we tend to think that because we work hard, we should have what we want, not just the things that we need. And I want to assure you we are not the only ones that work hard. Most things are a want, And if wants are not well managed, they create complicated lives at best and financial ruin at worst. To illustrate, when I started working with Professor Brewster, he took me to lunch in his truck. Now, you must know, for those of you who have not seen it, he drives a massive Ram truck. It's not just a crew cab, it is an extended crew cab. It has a diesel engine and huge tires and a lifted suspension. My first impression was that he hardly needed such a vehicle. He pulls no trailers. He hauls no heavy loads. He owns no home on a dirt road. In fact, he lives in a suburban house with a semicircle drive. My impression was that he, like so many lawyers, had miscalculated the needs versus wants, at least in the transportation department. But my first impressions were quickly dispelled once we began driving. Professor Brewster is a kind, brilliant, generous, dear friend, and on the road, a danger to himself and others. I was wrong. A loud, tall truck is precisely what he needs, and to warn others that he is coming. For the rest of us, though, usually a modest vehicle will suffice, as will a modest home with simple accompaniments. As a lawyer, I encourage you to maintain a healthy balance between what you need and what you want. Keep your finances sound, your debt low, and options open, and when you do, life will be simple. This is the other, and you will experience this in your early years. Life offers some of the greatest opportunities through trying and failing. Lawyering tends to focus on winning and procuring client advantages. You've been exceptionally trained in tort and contract defenses, corporate structures to limit liability, and trial lawyering skills to dissect witnesses on cross-examination. Lawyers work to find advantages for their clients in an effort to prevail as individuals, though I hope that you see that life presents enormous opportunities for advancement through failure. Throughout life, I have failed time and again. That began at an early age with anything remotely athletic. I was rejected on every team that I ever attempted to play on, whether that was flag football, baseball, basketball, kickball, or otherwise. I had been roundly rejected from graduate schools, jobs, and before my lovely wife, a plethora of the opposite sex. I can say, though, that with each rejection and failure came something more valuable than what I first sought. Standing before you today, I can count at least 10 professional rejections on my path to becoming your practice court professor, and I thank God for each and every one. Your initial failures and rejections will eventually become your successes, so embrace them and offer yourself grace as you stumble while learning to run. Final is this. The American legal system is adversarial in nature. It relies on opposing sides to achieve just outcomes. Life, though, is made whole through vibrant relationships built on love, support, and community. At the end of our lives, there will be a great accounting, but not of our billable hours. Clients will not stand around our graves and extol our brilliant contractual remedies or our cross-examinations. What will make you rich won't be your fee agreements. It will be in the relationships that you form, the lives you invest in, and those who reciprocate by investing in you. It will come from faith and community. Today, you graduate with more than a law degree. You carry from this place lifelong relationships that have nurtured you along the way and will enhance your lives as you go forward. Know that God loves you, that your life is worth far more than your profession, and when times are dark, keep in mind this bright day and the people who supported you then and always will. When life has you up Chocolate Creek without a popsicle stick, know that you always have us to turn to. Congratulations, dear friends. You are now part of a special fraternity of Baylor Law graduates. May God bless you always.
Thank you, Professor Tilley. That was excellent. I only built up expectations because I knew you would meet them. So very good and good advice for our graduates. Professor Wilson, Dean Wilson, the time has come for the conferral of the Juris Doctorate degrees. Will the candidates for the degrees please rise? I think I'd start there.
Dean Counselor, each of the candidates before you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the faculty of the School of Law and Baylor University, acting through its Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present the class to you for the conferral of the degrees.
Thank you, Dean Wilson. Each of you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the Faculty of Law and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents, it is my pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations. I think you need to move forward this way at this point to receive your diplomas and be hooded. Friends and family, you may wonder what we're doing up here while they're walking across the stage. We're going to shake some hands. We're going to give some hugs. But mostly what we do is we play a little game. We measure your love for your graduate based on how much noise you make when they walk across the stage. We are keeping score, and we'll announce a winner. Okay, so you're going to need to amp it up a little bit, okay? Let's move forward.
Elizabeth Caroline Carr. Callum Winkler Harrelson, magna cum laude. Catherine Marie Kirschmer, summa cum laude, highest ranking student in the graduating class. Bianca Lopez.
Congratulations. You're in the lead right now. You're in the love lead.
Sasha Ann McLennan. Gabriella Antoinette Sherman. William Kyle Simon. Matthew Sean Toutfest.
Congratulations, Tom. Way to go. Slide over this way, just slightly.
Our next graduate has earned a Joint Juris Doctor and Master of Business Administration and a special distinction in litigation, Gabrielle Anderson Tittle. Daniel Lee Turnbull. Our next graduate has earned a special distinction in criminal practice, Daniel Paul Whittington, magna cum laude. Canel Dejermad Woods.
Let's give them all one more round of applause. Well, I thought it was going to be a tie, and then Cannell walked across the stage, and I snatched victory at the final moment there. There's a lot of love in the room for all of you. Congratulations again, graduates. You are going to be fantastic attorneys and servants. I will say, on the whole, you struggled with the hooding thing a little bit. Thankfully, that's not a professional requirement ever again, but it's a hood, not a bib. Just in closing here, I want to invite all of you here over to the law school immediately after this ceremony. The classrooms and courtrooms are open. Your graduates can show you where they shed their blood and sweat and tears all these years. There will be food and refreshments there for you, and our faculty would love to get to meet you, and you can see that we're not really the monsters that they've told you that we are. I want to thank the people who make this ceremony possible. Our registrar's team of Susie Daniel, Jerry Cunningham, and Lauren Porter. I want to thank Chris Womack, our pianist. Thank you, Chris. Jose Campos, who's IT here at Truett Seminary, who helps us do this. Eric Gell, our official photographer back there of Eric Gell Photography, and Baylor Law IT and Marketing. And I want to thank Melina Barrientos, our student worker, for helping us put this on today. One last thing, kind of weird. We're going to recess out the same way we came in. And I'm going to ask you all to remain where you are, because then we're going to turn around and come right back in, okay? And we're going to gather up here at the front for a photograph, okay? And Eric, our official photographer, is going to take the official photograph. And what I'd ask of you, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, don't call your graduates' attention to your camera just yet. Let us get the official photograph, and then I promise you, he's very experienced at this. Eric Gell will then he'll give us the thumbs up, and then you can fire away. Okay, we'll remain up here, and you can get all the photos you want to. With that, graduates, I just want to leave you with a final word, and it's one that I often leave graduating classes with, and it's a quote from C.S. Lewis. And he says, "Aim at heaven, and you'll get the earth thrown in for good measure. Aim at the earth, and you won't get either." Go forward with that in mind, which I think is in keeping with everything you've heard today from Kate Kirchmer, from Professor Tilley, and Bianca's prayer. Let's go forward.